In this video, I'm going to take a look at some old arc lamps, mercury and metal halide, and I even have a self-ballasted mercury that you just screw into a regular light fixture. No extra hardware required. Let's take a look. Some of these are pretty rare. We're going to talk a bit about different types of light bulbs in this video. I've got a couple different ones to show you. These are what's called a discharge lamp. This is a metal halide lamp. This is actually the one from my shop, my work light. This is a 400 watt high intensity discharge lamp. Some of the coating is coming off a bit from the end here. That white coating is actually used to reflect the heat back into the electrodes to heat them up faster, but as you can see, some of it's starting to come down a bit. But lamps like this require a ballast to operate because they require higher voltage to start, and they require, once they do start, the internal resistance in the arc tube drops to almost nothing, and they would very quickly overload and blow your circuit. And that's actually why, if you see this thin wire here inside the lamp, that's actually a fuse, so that if you put this on the incorrect ballast and there was too much power applied to the lamp, this wire would actually get red hot and would melt and extinguish the lamp before it got to the point where this thing could explode, because the pressures inside here are so high that if the lamp were to run into an overcurrent or overload condition, the lamp itself could fail. And these were available in the traditional mercury vapor as well. The mercury vapor, though, generally weren't tended to be as listed as dangerous as these metal halide because they operated at a much lower pressure. So this lamp here, this is a mercury, and this is actually a very old mercury lamp. You don't see too many mercury lamps like this anymore. Again, it's got, this is the fuse protector over here, this strap, but a lamp like this is really not going to fail in the same type of manner as a metal halide, just because the pressure is much lower. These are both 400 watt lamps, and the same ballast that will start this one will also operate this mercury. But as you can see from the length of the arc tube is much longer, and the resulting pressure is also much lower on this lamp. These are both using a quartz envelope, and both of these require a ballast because they need higher voltage to start up and regulate. But there's a third type of mercury lamp, and this is much less common. This one here, this is a self-ballasted mercury lamp. It's by eye. It's 180 watts. You can tell it's a self-ballasted mercury lamp because it has the letters SBML, stands for self-ballast mercury lamp. So exactly what is a self-ballasted mercury lamp? This is something that people have asked me. And what is the difference between this lamp, and this one here probably has 30,000 hours on it, by the way. I'm looking to see if there's a date code on this thing here. And it looks like, could that be in the date code there, 97D? So that would make it, if it's 97D, that would make this 1997. And that is possibly around when this lamp was new, which makes this lamp about 20 years old. It's got literally tens of thousands of hours of use. This lamp was used in a pole-mounted light on my driveway for many, many years until I converted it over to a different type of light. But this thing probably has, I would say probably at least 10 years of use every night. It still works. We're gonna turn it on here, but let's explain how these things work. They're obscure. You don't see too many of them around. They are still available because they sell them for reptile lights. They sell them as UV lights for reptiles, and they're more of a flood shape, and you can get sun lamps that work on the same technology as well. But let's take a look, because we can't see what's inside this lamp without me breaking the vacuum, and then the lamp won't work. Let's just take a look at the drawing of what's inside, because in a conventional mercury lamp we can very easily see that our two leads coming in, one goes directly to this electrode, the second one goes to the second electrode here on this end of the tube, and then there's our resistor that operates a small electrode next to the main electrode. And what this does, this is called the starter electrode. So when you first apply power, it uses an auto transformer. Well, I'll draw it. This is for mercury, and metal halide are similar, but they usually have a capacitor, and sometimes some of the smaller ones will have a starter on it as well. But on a conventional mercury lamp, you've got a transformer, which is your ballast, and it's usually just a single-ended ballast, and your line voltage goes here. This is for 120 volt countries. 240, they typically just put a resistive load on it. And then coming off the top of the transformer, it goes to your lamp. And the other side goes to ground. And what this does is when you first apply power, this steps up the voltage to about 230, 240 volts so that the lamp will light. This is the simplest of the mercury fixtures, and this would typically be used on a mercury fixture that was running 150 or 175 watt lamp. But the larger lamps would also add a capacitor in line as well to add additional current handling and also improve the power factor. Metal halide fixtures, very similar. Some of them will have an additional winding and a starter to kick it. Same with high pressure sodium. We're not going to get into that in this demonstration. This demonstration, we're talking about the self-ballasted mercury. So if I draw the light bulb, let's see how well I can draw a light bulb here. And inside that light bulb, you've got your arc tube. So we'll draw the arc tube here. And your arc tube's got an electrode in each end. So far, we're exactly the same as a conventional mercury lamp. You've got your two power lines coming up from the screw socket, and one will go up directly to the main electrode. The second one, though, it goes up and it goes to a filament, an incandescent filament. Usually it's around the top. And of course that's got its own glass structure. So we'll draw the glass structure in here that holds the lamp in place, the lamp holder as they call it. And that comes up here and holds the lamp in place, or the metal structure. And it'll have, usually it's glass, and then it'll have the little wires that will support the filament. Okay, the filament is connected to the second electrode here. So the second electrode is connected to the filament so that all the current goes through the filament in order to operate the lamp. But there's two additional electrodes inside a self-ballasted mercury lamp. There's another filament here, and there's another filament on the other end of the lamp. And these are very important. One of them is connected directly to the electrode, and the same as this side is connected directly to the electrode, and the other one has a wire that comes out and it goes to a bimetallic switch. It connects to the lamp. So here's your bimetallic switch. So when you first apply power, power is going to go through this heater, through the bimetallic strip, through the second heater, and then through the main filament and return. So what this is going to do is when the lamp is first turned on, the lamp is going to light up very bright like an incandescent lamp, and all of the current is going to be going through the ballast filament, as well as it's going to be going through the filaments on the end of each of the arc tube, each end. What they're doing is they're actually preheating the arc tube to get the mercury into its gaseous state. Once the arc tube warms to a sufficient temperature, the bimetallic switch will open, and that will cause the arc to strike. And then the arc lamp will kick in, and as the mercury continues to warm up, the lamp will go into more and more conduction, and what you'll see is the filament start to dim down. If we look at the lamp, I don't know if we're able to see it in the base of this lamp or not, but it's hard to see, but if you look down the barrel of the lamp, you might just be able to make out the bimetallic strip. It's on this side over here, and it's running right alongside of the lamp. Anyway, let's turn this thing on and watch what it does when it starts up, because these things are kind of unique the way these ones turn on. And if I turn it off after the bimetallic strip has opened, the lamp won't turn on again until it's cool. So if we turn the lamp on, it's going to light up just like an incandescent bulb, and it gets hot just like an incandescent bulb. You can see the filament inside here. Let me just iris the camera down a bit. I'm just going to shut this off for a minute. We'll turn the iris down on the camera if I can, just so that it looks a little better. Probably see the filament inside here. You can see it around the edge of the lamp here. That's the filament that's heating up the lamp. Now as it warms up, the mercury will strike and the arc tube inside will light. So if I just hold the lamp here so you can see what's happening inside. You can see the ends glowing too. You see that you can actually see, there we go. The arc tube is now started and it's starting to turn blue. And as the lamp heats up, and these things get very hot, by the way, very hot. They're like a regular mercury lamp. But as the arc tube warms, you'll see that the color will gradually change and it'll become more blue. Now this is a phosphorus coated lamp, so it's got more normal color. And once it warms up, the color of this looks like a fluorescent lamp. It's really quite bright. And as you see, the filament here is now starting to get more orange as it's dimming out. More and more power is going to go through the mercury lamp itself, and it's going to become brighter and it's going to overpower this. But the fact that these filaments are not running really bright like in a conventional incandescent bulb, they last a long time. From that angle, it looks kind of neat. And you can see the incandescent still glowing. Camera really picks that up. It doesn't look that orange to the eye, but the camera makes it look more orange than it actually is. But as you can see, this lamp is starting to, I would say that this would be considered to be at the end of its life because it's starting to blacken on the inside, so we're losing lumens on this lamp. They start out considerably brighter than an incandescent, even though they draw a lot of power. This is 180 watts, this lamp. Light-wise, it gives off about the same light as would about a 250 to 300 watt incandescent bulb of the day would have given out. So they were more efficient than an incandescent light, but not as efficient as, say, a metal halide or a sodium. I think probably a 70 watt metal halide light would put out a lot more light than this 180 watt self-ballasted mercury. But it's starting to get up to full brightness now. See, I've just hung on to this thing just because these are kind of a rarity. You don't see too many of these around anymore. It's not something you can just walk into your local store and buy. And I think if you went to like a pet store, you could buy one as a reptile light, and it would be, I think most of them are clear because they want them for the UV light. This one here's got a glass envelope, so it's not giving off a lot of UV. The reptile lights have a soft glass or envelope. They give off a lot of UVB for reptiles and snakes and stuff, so you wouldn't want to use one of those for general purpose lighting because you'd get a suntan or a sunburn from it. They're more like a sun lamp. This one here was one that it has the phosphorus filter, and it also has conventional harder glass on here like a fluorescent tube, so you're not getting the ultraviolet exposure from a lamp like this like you would off of one that's designed for reptile use, which are the ones that you'll find in the stores today. But there it is. It's pretty much reached full brightness now. There's a date code. 22nd week of 1968. So it's almost 50 years old, this bulb. And it still works. It will strike. Oh, well, if I screw it in all the way. I'll do the manual exposure on this too. We'll turn the exposure down so you guys can see this thing warm up. I'll put the other one in as well. I'll put the metal halide in once this one warms up. We'll let this one get up to full brightness. So you can see this is very blue, this light. And skin looks an odd color. Everything looks green under this light. But as you can see, the color, these mercury lamps would make your skin look green. They were terrible for color rendition. These are like the old street lights. This is what they used. Pure mercury. And they had just atrocious color rendering. Makes everything look green. Now that light now is almost at full brightness. I can look at it with the naked eye, no problem. It's not blinding. You wait till the other one goes in. The 400 watt metal halide light is probably 6 or 7 times brighter than this. This is not all that bright. But this is now approaching its full brightness. Camera is starting to go into auto shutter again because it's just a little too bright for it. Anyway, that's this one. If I turn it out, you'll see the electrodes are glowing and it won't strike again, except for you'll see the little bit of blue light at the top. That's the starting electrode. And if I leave it turned on here, once the lamp cools enough, it'll strike. Okay, next I have the metal halide lamp in. We'll strike that. It'll take a few seconds to strike, as all metal halides do. And there it goes. As you can see, it's already brighter than the other lamp was. Well, not quite, but it's getting there. It'll get, this one will get bright very quickly. Let's see if I can get back into my exposure. Exposure back to manual. We can turn it down here. Now this will start out green as well. Everything will look green. In a minute or so you'll see the color temperature will warm up as the metallic salts start to evaporate. You'll see it'll kick red. That's the big difference between mercury and metal halide lamps. They're still a mercury lamp, it's just that the halides, or the metal halides that are in the lamp itself, will radiate different wavelengths of light and make this very close to being almost a perfect color. I think this one is a 4100 degree Kelvin, but it's very white and very bright. The reason you're seeing the black bands drift through the picture there is because, being a discharge lamp, it's actually strobing at 120 hertz, or 120 times per second. It follows the AC waveform, the AC sine wave. So 60 cycles, and there's two peaks per cycle. There's a positive and a negative swing, so you have 120 hertz. The camera shutter is not operating at 125. It's probably not operating at 120. It's probably operating at 125 or 250 or some other multiple that doesn't multiply into 60. So you're seeing the shutter fluctuate. As you can see, the lamp is now warming up. The color is warming up. If I put my hand up here, it's getting more normal color. It's not at full brightness yet either. This thing will continue to get bright for another few minutes here. but it is getting very bright in here. And this lamp, I cannot look at it with the naked eye. You can't look at this lamp. The mercury, I could look at the arc all day and it wouldn't bother me. This one here, this is just too bright. It's like looking at the sun. That's as low as, that's I guess as good a shot as I can get of that arc tube on this camera. If I close it down anymore, we're not going to see anything. But there's the arc. That's the best shot that I can get of the arc with this camera. But you can actually see the red glow around the outside of the arc. That's the salts, the metallic salts that are radiating out red light, as opposed to just the blue light that's coming from the mercury discharge along the center of the core. And now, I don't know if you see my hand up here or not, probably not because I'm being blocked out from the light, but if I open up the exposure just a bit here, the color balance is normal now. Skin tone looks normal under this light. And that's about as good a shot as I'm able to get with this camera. There's the color temperature of this lamp, as you can see. Now if I shut it off, the ends will be glowing on this thing. And of course now the camera exposure kicks back up. But as you can see, the inside of the arc tube is glowing red hot. And this will take a while for this one to cool down before I can strike it again. I use this lamp if I'm working on stuff in the middle of the shop because it is a really good light to work under. Anyway, I thought you guys might think that's kind of cool, the different types of lights that I've got here, some of the old vintage ones I've got. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.